talking about behind the scenes as much behind the scenes stuff.
We don't want
Uh,
to prove to people that we really don't know what we're doing. Is that what you're saying?
right, right. Come on,
Says
stream
stream health
start.
is great.
There it goes. Started. Started. All right, I need to bring that, that there, that there. I didn't have all my windows set up right. That's
That's
what
okay.
happens. I get distracted. Okay.
That's what I do.
Alright, do I have everything going on here? I changed some stuff on my OBS when I recorded that public service announcement, and
Oh,
I didn't record, like, I didn't do it live stream to YouTube. I just recorded it, and so. All right, are you ready?
ready.
All right, we're gonna start in three, two, one. Welcome everybody to Geekvice, episode 180, proving any vice with enough geek can become a virtue. My name's Morph, that man's Kip. Good evening, Kip.
Good evening.
We are back from an extended holiday slash convention trip, and apologies go out first and foremost. Apologize for missing last week and just having nothing on our channel at all. That isn't going to happen very often, and last week it just happened to have it with everything that was going on. 4th of July running in the middle of the week. My wife's nieces, one of them which stayed with us for a while while her dad was moving. So they came and stayed with us before the 4th of July, and I don't have a big enough house for 4 kids. So the 2 extra kids slept down here in the basement where I record. So therefore I couldn't easily move all my stuff out of here to still record. So that got
And
in the way, you know, the normal stuff. But we are back, and we are here, and we went to Okamacon this last weekend, and that was awesome.
yeah, we were actually publicly in the same place at the same time.
That's right. We even sat in the same panel, and I didn't even see you walk in to that panel.
We were late. Maybe that's why you didn't see
Oh,
us.
that might have been. I might not have
Yeah,
noticed you walking in then.
yeah. It took us a while to pick you out of the crowd, but once we did,
Well, it was kind of funny because neither me or the 2 kids that I had with me sitting in this panel. So here, hold on. We got to go back to the very beginning here. O Comic Con is awesome. You should all go. It's in the Council Bluffs or Omaha metropolitan area. It's actually in Council Bluffs, Iowa. It was at the Mid America Center. It ran Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Half day on Friday, right? Noon to 8.
noon to 8, I think.
Yeah, on Friday, and then 9 to 8 on Saturday. And then I don't know what the times were on Sunday because I wasn't going to be there. I didn't actually look that up
Yeah, I didn't need.
because we were driving back. My boy had a soccer game, so we got back in time for him to make his soccer game today. And but that was a really well put on event. A big shout out to the O Comic Con guys for putting that together. They did a really good job. They had good crowds. They had good booths, and they had some good celebrities that were there. One of the celebrities that I really wanted to see his panel for that I didn't get to see was Rob Paulson. I did not get to see that panel, but I heard it was amazing. He is an incredible voice actor. If you don't know who Rob Paulson is, then you didn't grow up in the 90s. Or you just didn't realize you were listening to Rob Paulson because he's kind of like Casey Kasem. Well, I, I don't know if it's fair to compare him to Casey Kasem because Casey Kasem has a voice that you just know when you hear it. You know, he did the radio shows, he did Shaggy, um, he did, oh geez, now I forgot. He did a bunch of characters in the Transformers cartoon in the 80s, but Mr. Paulson he's done characters like Pinky from Pinky and the Brain. He's Yakko from Animaniacs. He is, I believe he did, if I remember correctly, he did Raphael in the Ninja Turtles cartoon in the 90s. And then the most current iteration of the Ninja Turtles cartoon, he is Donatello. His list of characters that he has done goes on and on and on. And if you watched cartoons in the 90s, you listen to Rob Paulson, you just might not have known it. That's how awesome this guy is.
Yeah, after I saw his credentials and everything, it's like, well, now I know why I've never heard of the guy because me being slightly older than you, I did not watch those cartoons.
Right.
But
There was a little past your demographic in the 90s. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, yeah. In the '90s, I was already married, working.
Yeah. No, not me. Growing up, loving every minute of it. So, yeah, he's awesome. I have heard interviews with him before, and because he's done some stuff for Nerdist and a few other things, and he just goes back and forth in and out of characters without missing a beat. Like he'll carry on. He'll say one sentence, but he might use three different characters within that same sentence, and it just jumps back and forth, and it's there's never a slip up. It's never a oh wait, no, that's not quite right. Try it this way. No, he just nails it, and you hear it, and you're like, oh wow, that is so cool. Um, he can actually in Animaniacs, one of the like skits that they would do in Animaniacs was Yakko would do all the countries in the world. So just go through and name every country in the world, and they would do it to a song. Rob Paulson can still do that to this day. Like just here, sing this song, and he can do it. Like it is absolutely incredible how amazing he can do that in just a single take. He can sing all the names of all the countries in the world in the voice of Yakko from Animaniacs, and it's just incredible listening to him do it. So I missed that panel, and I wish I could have been there, but it was at a time when I was not at the convention. So
Yeah, and you missed the panel that I was actually a moderator on.
that's right. Our own very own Kip got up on stage and hosted a panel. What panel? Who was that? That you had up there?
His name is Daryl Skelton. He did a lot of art for DC and Marvel. Back in the day, he did the art for the, believe it or not, Dallas had a comic book. Remember this TV show Dallas with JR? Yeah. And Star Trek The Next Generation had a comic book run. He was the artist for that.
Very cool.
And the panel worked perfectly in my wheelhouse because introduced the guy and then he just talked.
Yeah. That was, and you know what? You say that name, like I think we stopped by his booth as well, like when we were there, and he actually was talking with the boys that I brought, because I went up there for we took our neighbor Pearson. So shout out to Pearson. He is Mist,
Oh, that was
Fright in the Night.
Pearson.
Yeah, that was Pearson that was with us. He is a fan of the podcast, listens to our podcast, is probably listening right now while he's going to sleep. So, good night, Pearson. Fall
Good
asleep
night,
while you're
Pearson.
listening to us. Um, he came up with us along with my two boys and my wife. So there's five of us up there, and we were walking through, and I remember seeing. Stopping by his booth, and I was like, I think that was the guy that Kip had that he did the interview for, and he seemed to be a really nice guy. Talking to him in the booth, he was just drawing right away, like just uh, sketching a picture of Wonder Woman, and it's like that was really cool, like getting to watch him do his trade right there.
Yeah,
One of my
he was.
favorite parts of Artist Alleys.
Yeah, he was really cool. And the one thing you get going to these cons, if you've never gone to one, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't read comic books, go to a panel. The people that are the talent for these things, their stories are amazing, and you realize how much how thick of a skin you really have to be in that their positions. It wasn't like they practiced a lot, got really good at art, and found the perfect job. Every one of these guys tells stories of rejection, or he even talked about he had this one comic book run that they were getting ready to do, and then there was like a major change at Marvel, and we'll just say new management came in, and they just killed the run. It never saw the light of day. Something he's super proud of, but gone.
Yeah.
Or trying to get a job somewhere and getting rejected, and people, they all have those stories, and you realize that you just got to be willing to face all that rejection and just keep pushing forward, and that's why those people are amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's hard work, and it's something that I can't do, so I always look up to them and just go. I'm always impressed by artists that put stuff together like that, because I can't I can't draw to save my life. I thought I could when I was a kid, and then realized, nope, this is not my thing. I am not artistic enough. So I quickly stepped down from it, and it's still something though to this day. Artists just impress me. Like I'm always impressed by the stuff that they can do, and that was some of the artwork that was there at Comic Con was just incredible. Um, like there was, and it's kind of funny because you knew the booths when you were walking through. Like you could tell the artists that were like that were salesmen as much as they were artists, because they'd be drawn right away, and you'd be walking by, and they would still notice you stopping to look at stuff, and they would engage you in a conversation. And it wasn't just a, hey, you see something that you like, you want to buy? No, it was like, hey, what's your favorite character? Or hey, how are you doing? You having a good time at the convention? They just struck up a conversation, and I was really impressed with the artists that could do that, not just to me, but could do that to the kids. That
Yeah,
find them and get them to open up and talk to them. Um, that was really impressive. So they had some really good artists there. I wish I didn't get as many cards as I wanted to, um, because I kind of want to check more of them out. But I know that they've got a list of them on who all was there online, and so I got to go through and pull all that. We've we haven't been back for very long, so I haven't had time to do it yet. So,
yeah, I did. I did get a card from Ragnarok Publications. I bought one of their books.
nice,
Um, Kaiju Rising: Age of Monsters.
nice.
They were selling it only for $15. It's like a 500-page book.
Yeah.
Love the artwork. I love the idea of the Kaiju Rising, and I love the fact that I was helping out an independent guy.
Right.
So did that, and then our very own Carl Smith of the Goat Kicker podcast, part of our
Yeah.
podcast arcade umbrella. I bought one of his books,
Nice.
The Horror of Loon Lake. Can't wait to dive into this and check it out. Carl's very talented. You should listen to his podcast as well as buy his books.
Well, and you'll have to listen to his past podcast because he's been out of podcasting for a little while. But after hanging out with him, I think he really wants to get back into it. He's just got to find the time. You know, like everybody else, we get busy with real life, and he's incredibly busy with a real life job and still doing artist and comic book stuff. I didn't bring. I stopped by one of the cards that I picked up, and this guy just really impressed me. And I think I'm gonna end up getting getting something for Reese, my oldest one, as a gift for Christmas. I believe he was the Crafty Ninja, and he did leather like slim wallet work.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
And he was incredible just in the way he never talked to me. He talked to the kids. And he went, and he wasn't pushy, he wasn't salesman-y. He was just getting them, like, because he has wallets. They're all leather wallets that he hand prints and hand sews. And so he kind of talked a little bit about how he made them, and then he was asking them who their favorite characters were, like who's your favorite superhero, and you know they would, and I think Reese said like he liked Batman, and so he's like, well, I got this Batman wallet here. There's slim wallets to hold all your stuff, and he's like, but what he did that none of the other boosts did, and I thought was really kind of cool, was he had ninja challenges. So if you stopped and talked to him, he could give you a ninja challenge, and if you completed the ninja challenge, you got $5 off of any of the stuff on the table, any of the wallets on the table. And he's like, some people just come by and want to do the ninja challenge and they don't even really want to buy anything. And he's like, that's fine too, because it's just a way to get you out and around. So some of these challenges were things like go get a picture with a certain prop, or go get your picture that's in the prop section. Go get your picture, or go get something from a certain booth. Like, and it was all stuff that you didn't have to buy stuff to complete these challenges. You just had to show that you went around to these other booths. Or the one that Reese wanted to do the ninja challenge. His ninja challenge was win a staring contest. So, so they did a staring contest, and I'm pretty sure the guy let Reese win, but he pushed Reese to his limits, so that was pretty funny too. So it was really entertaining. He was a really good, really nice guy, and I did not. His business card is actually in my wallet upstairs, but I'm gonna get his information out there on our Facebook page because he was really cool. I really liked him, and I'm gonna be buying some stuff from him just for being a cool dude and selling stuff that's handmade stuff. I like that.
Yeah. You know, besides all the great artists and personalities and stuff that were there, my favorite part of the whole thing really was getting to hang out with everybody in the podcast arcade.
Yeah.
You know, Morph and I don't live in the same city as most everybody else in the podcast arcade.
And we don't live in the same state.
Right. We don't even live in the same state. We're 3 hours away from those guys. And we got together, and it's like we've known each other for 30 years. It was fantastic hanging out with the guys, and you know, being separate podcasts and being so far apart, we don't really get to spend quality time with everybody else. But it felt like we've known each other forever. We went out and had some drinks afterwards and hung out at the couches, I called them, at the podcast arcade booth, and
Yeah.
it was just like we aren't miles apart. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was.
Plus, it was very it was invigorating, being around all these people that we listen to their podcast, we bounce ideas off each other. It was just very cool to actually feel like like we're not that other podcast in the other state. It was pretty cool in that way.
Yeah.
And I wish we could have podcasted while we were there. As people who listen to Geekvice know, that being super organized is probably not in our wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It showed this weekend at Comic-Con,
Well,
while
it
Morph
was
was there, I wasn't there, and when I was there, Morph was at the zoo, and it just
I turned this into a family vacation for us. That was we went up there, all five, me, my wife, my two kids, and Pearson went up there, and we went up Friday night, but we didn't get up there. We didn't leave till after work, so we didn't get up there until after everything was pretty much over. The convention was over, so we didn't go to the convention until Saturday. This was the first convention that Pearson, Reese, or my youngest son Conley, or my wife had ever been to. So, a 5-year-old at a convention, you're limited on what the amount of time you can do certain things. There was no way he was sitting through an hour-long panel. There was no way he was going to be spending much more than the 4 hours that we were there in the morning. That was pretty much putting him past his limit, and he's like, okay, I've seen all this stuff, I'm done, and if we don't go do something that I want to do, I'm going to make your life living hell. So, anyone with kids understands that there's a certain point where you can push them so far, and then at some point they don't just start pushing back, they actually go nuclear and ruin everything that they're around. So I was not going to let that happen to our good friends in the podcast arcade or the good people at Comic-Con and have my kid go nuclear. So we spent about 4 hours there on Saturday morning, and then we were like, okay, we gotta go take him to the zoo, because that was the one thing that when we said we were going to Omaha, that was the one thing he really wanted to do, was go to the zoo. So, and I can't blame him, because that zoo is pretty freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, I've never been, but every time I tell people I'm going to Omaha, it's like, oh, are you going to the zoo? No, I'm going for work. Well, you really should go to the zoo. Yeah, but I don't think they're going to pay me to do that.
Yeah.
But
is
everybody, that's what they know Omaha for, is that zoo.
Well,
but now you should know it for Comic-Con, because it was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. I one quick story on the zoo, and this will make fun of Pearson a little bit. If he's still awake, he'll get to hear this. There's a section of the zoo that is kind of a rainforest type area, or a jungle type area, and the Omaha Zoo doesn't have things in cages. They set up kind of scenes for them. They're areas that are make them look like native habitat, and they don't have big cage bars. It's more like, almost looks like mesh netting that kind of keeps animals that need to be separated from each other separate. But there are some animals that are just out, like where you feel like you could reach out and touch them. They recommend not doing that. In this jungle area, they had Egyptian fruit bats just hanging out. They were, and when we went through, since it was late enough in the afternoon, they had fruit set out for them so they could eat. When you're walking through this thing and you get dive bombed by bats, it's a whole different experience.
I would say so.
If you've never been dive bombed by a bat, that is something that you should experience at least once. And it was really kind of funny because we were, you're walking along through this area that's got like, I don't know if they're fake trees or real trees. They looked real enough to me. But with this vegetation all up everywhere and these big like rock walls, and these bats are just like clung to these walls, and then all of a sudden you'll go walking by and they'll go flying down by your head, and then they'll go perch somewhere else. And at one point we were getting ready to walk through this like rock tunnel type area, and one of the bats had flown by and stopped right at the entrance to this tunnel, was hanging there. And I like, at this point I've already got like, the kids are, Conley's already going, my 5-year-old is going, something's not right here. Reese is going, well, that's really cool. And Pearson's going, oh my God, there's a bat. It's right in the way. We have to walk under the bat. And I'm like, it's okay. Bats, light and sound are what cause bats to go a little crazy. And Egyptian bats are not as nocturnal. They're not as nocturnal as your typical bats. So they can be out in daylight a little bit more. Doesn't mean they see really, really well. They still, fly with echolocation and everything. But I'm like, just be quiet and walk underneath this thing and it'll be fine. So they're like, well, I'm not going first. Nobody wanted to go first. I'm like, fine. I will go through first. You all just follow me. So I walk through quietly. I walk underneath this bat and it doesn't move. Reese follows behind me, walks through nonchalantly. Bat doesn't move. Now it's Pearson's turn to walk underneath the thing, and he starts walking up to it normal, and then he's like, I've got to run. And he takes off running through the entrance to this tunnel, and his feet just slap the ground really hard. You hear like almost like somebody who, when they're trying to stop, they've run real fast and they're trying to stop and their feet just kind of smack the ground. That's how he ran underneath this bat, and that bat just popped off that wall and just flew straight at Amber's head. And my wife had to duck out of the way as this bat just goes flying past her. And so we made fun of Pearson the rest of the day, that he is afraid of bats. So he might be the next Batman.
He could be the next Batman, yeah.
I do not wish anything bad upon his parents, but maybe Pearson can buck the trend to become Batman without his parents dying. How about that? So that's my one story from the zoo, but I just thought that was too funny not to share on the podcast. And any chance I get to make fun of a 13-year-old, I might as well take it, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
yeah, we talked about it one time. We may just have to check out the zoo. We just haven't done it yet, and I'd be curious to see how my wife handles being dive bombed by bats. It could be pretty hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they'd have to dive pretty low to get your wife's head, so she might be okay.
Lucky for you, she went to bed.
But no, that was back to Okamicon and the great stuff that was there. I gotta say, the one panel that we did get to sit in on, you hosted a panel. Billy from the Podcast Underground and Eddie from Daydream Instruction Manual and the millions of other podcasts that he does in the network, they hosted a panel with David Yost, who was the original Blue Ranger.
And he was awesome.
He was incredible. I did not realize that he was from Iowa. So that was kind of cool that he had, was back and did that. He was a really good, panelist? Is that what they're called? I don't know. He was a really good speaker. He did a good job talking about all the stuff he went through. It was really kind of cool listening to the stories that he told about some of the things he went through, and the fact that um, I don't. I watched the show as a kid. I didn't watch it as religiously as some of the other people in that were at that panel and were asking questions. But I thought it was really cool, or I thought it was really funny how he talked about how the Red Ranger, Jason, and himself were basically they like well, that the Red Ranger was the bully of the group of the Rangers and would like to play practical jokes on the other people.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um, it definitely sounded like frat boy type joke, like pranks. So I thought that was kind of funny. I got a bigger kick out of it than I think the kids did, but I thought that was pretty funny. Um, and I don't know if so. How many panels did you sit in on? I know you hosted that one, and I know you were at the David Yost panel. Did you sit in on any other panels?
No, those are my only two.
So I'm kind of curious, and I need to ask Eddie. David Yost brought gifts for people in the audience. I felt like he was Oprah Winfrey or something.
Yeah.
He didn't. There wasn't anything under the chair, and he did not give away any cars. But I thought it was really cool how he picked out some people who had asked questions that he really liked, and it was interesting. I almost think he picked out like kids rather than adults, but my son was one of the people he picked out, and gave a signed copy of Power Rangers number 3, which has his character Billy on the cover of it. So, and he signed it, David Yost, and then signed it as Billy. And Reese already has that thing up in his room in a safe spot so that it can't get damaged or hurt. He's already read through it once. Like I've got to go down into my sub basement and get my bags and boards so that I can bag and board it for him, and we'll seal it up to protect it. And but he was stoked by that. He absolutely loved listening to him talk about being an actor on a TV show and what all he had to go through to become an actor, which is a little incredible in and of itself. All those actors are just like artists. It's a lot of rejection before you get that final yes, and even then, you know, he was lucky enough that it was Power Rangers, and Power Rangers actually took off, and he was able to build on that. But some people get into a movie or TV show and it flops, like that can hurt you just as much as a good one can help you. So
Exactly, and the thing I liked most about David Yost was when somebody asked him a question and then he answered it, he checked back to make sure that he actually answered that question.
yeah,
He actually was that engaged with the audience, and one of the people, when I think he got off on a tangent and kind of forgot what the question was. And then he asked the guy, "Did I answer the question?" And the guy was like, "Well, actually, no." And he actually took the time to answer his question properly. And it was like, that's pretty cool. He did not treat it like this is just something I have to do, blah, blah, blah. He was actually super engaged with everybody. And like what he did with your son and then that one girl who won something, he really made especially the kids feel like he really was glad they were there, and it was like one of those panels you walked out going, "Wow, that guy's awesome."
yeah, he was really cool, and I don't know, and that's the thing now is I've got to. Reese has watched some of the Power Rangers shows that are on Netflix. Now I need to go back and actually look and see which ones he's watched, and see if they're ones that David Yost was actually in, because there's been tons and tons of Power Rangers, and I don't know which ones are actually streaming on Netflix because I haven't actually sat down and rewatched any of them. So now I need to go back and see if those were ones that David Yost was actually in, because it would be really kind of funny if I go like, "Oh, Reese, see the Blue Ranger there? that's the guy that gave you the comic book, and see his
Yeah.
reaction to that now. So, um, it's sometimes it's kind of hard to believe when you go to some of these events that you're like, oh, well, that's that guy, and he does that, and like that's pretty cool. It's kind of that shock factor, I guess, or that
Yeah.
shock and awe.
Well, I never watched the Power Rangers, but now that I've been in that panel with the guy and how well, I do want myself to go back and watch at least his version
Yeah.
Power Rangers to see,
Well,
just to be like Reese and say, hey, there's that guy. So
yeah. Yeah, and well, I want to check out he's got a new movie coming out too. Um and I can't remember what he said the name of it was.
oh man,
I know, now I'm gonna have to look it up. So you're gonna have to vamp for me while I look it up. But he gosh, he said it was kind of a superhero type movie, and it's got a bunch of different um, Power Ranger actors in it. The Order, and it
the
comes out.
order.
Yeah, it comes out this year. And no, I don't want IMDb app on my phone. I was seeing if it had a release date on here.
It says 2017, but I
Yeah,
don't see an actual day.
I don't either. But it's a covert group of vigilantes known as the Order dedicate their lives to eliminating violent threats and imminent disasters, but discover that one threat they face is led by some of their very own.
Well,
So,
I'm looking at the cast, and it's got Marina Sirtis
uh-huh.
and Michelle Nichols from Star Trek, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's got Austin St. John, I think that is he was one of the Power Rangers as well. I don't know all the Walter Jones, I believe, was one of the Power Rangers.
That's what you
Um,
say.
but yeah, I think it's kind of cool. Like I kind of want to see that now, and I'm gonna have to put that on my list of things to watch and see when that actually comes out. I'm gonna have to do some more research on it, find out when that comes out. So that was really cool. And I also gotta say, I gotta give him credit. He was very honest with all of his answers. Um, Reese asked him if he was going to be in any new Power Ranger movies, and he said that he was very honest. He's like, I would love to be in one of the movies. He's like, a little cameo appearance or a little throwback type thing. He's like, I would love to. It's up to them to call me to do it, but I would love to. But he was very honest that he said that he can't do the TV shows. He can't make any appearances on the TV shows, even though he's been asked to, because the TV shows are all done non-union, and he's a union actor. So he can't go against his union and be in the TV shows. And I thought that was really kind of cool, and it also brought up more questions from Reese afterwards so that he could understand exactly what that all meant. But,
Yeah.
you know, but I thought that that was really cool that he's, um, an 8-year-old is asking this question, and he was, willing to give a little bit more information than really he needed. He could have just been, yeah, I'd love to do a TV show, but I can't, or, just for whatever, or just, yeah, I'd love to do one, and then leave it at that. Um, so I thought he was really good, very honest, very open, and it was a great panel. And Billy does an incredible job running those panels. It was kind of funny. When I walked into that panel, Eddie didn't have a microphone in front of him.
Yeah, he didn't have one when we posted a panel together either.
It doesn't seem to bother him though. He projects loud enough that I'm not sure he needs the microphone.
Well, that's what
But
he said.
Billy does a really good job of adding to questions. People ask questions and they start a topic, and then Billy can kind of not you just kind of poke and prod that question a little bit more to get more information out of the person talking, and he did a really good job. I gotta give him credit for that. So he did a very good job running those panels. So shout out to Billy from
Yeah.
the podcast Underground.
Underground Ink.
Underground Inc.
Yeah.
Uh,
It for anybody who's never really gone to a comic book convention, you'll be amazed how little you really need to know about a comic book to go.
hmm
I am proof positive that you can not read comic books and go to a comic book convention and have a really good time. Um, the if you're a people watcher, ooh, that's gold right there.
Oh
Um,
yeah, we haven't even gotten into the cosplay that was there.
the cosplay, there was professional wrestling.
Yeah.
Um,
Did you see iBot? So this
no.
is the Iron Brothers of Topeka.
Oh yeah, I did see that. Yes.
They were there and I don't know if they were there on Friday. I don't know if they had their big costumes there on Friday, but on Saturday, um, just it was right after the panel, so it was right around like lunchtime. Well, first of all, beforehand they were there, and it was a guy in the booth that just looked like Stan Lee, and
Yes.
so that was really kind of cool. And that was really kind of neat. We were looking at some of their pictures and stuff like that they had there. But then after we got out of the panel and we were um, walking back to the podcast arcade lounge to do a big group picture of all of us, they were out there and they were in their big Iron Man suits that put them. I mean, these guys were taller than me. These guys were probably 7+ feet tall in these
Oh,
suits. I mean, they
yeah.
were huge, and it was just awesome. And the look on my kid's face, like when we walked by and they saw those, they're like, "That is amazing!" So we actually we got our picture taken with them. They were nice enough to let us get our picture taken with all the Iron Man. There was War Machine. There was an Iron Man that didn't have a helmet, so he looked like Tony Stark. Um, and then there was like a Iron Patriot type
Yeah,
armor.
there was an Iron Patriot. Yeah. Well, the day before on Friday, one of them dressed up in an old school Cylon from the original Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, okay.
And it even had the red light, for the eyes,
Right?
and it was freaking amazing.
That is awesome.
I wanted to get a picture with him, but I was running around like a mad person on Friday, and I thought, well, he'll be back tomorrow. Nope, I was wrong. He didn't come back.
Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check them out a little bit more. I want to see what other conventions they go to because I wouldn't mind going and seeing some more stuff they do. There was also the booth that was right next to them. I don't know what it was. They didn't have any cards out or anything, but the guy was, and this is something that I thought was really kind of cool. The cosplayers that were there, some of the cosplayers that had booths there, were actually building their costume or putting their costume on right there in the booth.
Yes,
So one of the guys dressed up as Logan from the Logan movie,
and he was
and
awesome.
he was really good, but he took the time. Like, we walked by and saw him early on in the day, and he had the shirt that was torn, and he had some of the prosthetics and stuff on his body to make it look like he was scratched up and bleeding. But that's all he
Yeah.
had. His hair was done, but it was just he just had a scratched up shirt, and it looked like his shirt was bloody. That's all it really looked like. I'm like, oh, okay, well that's kind of cool. Well, then when we get out of the panel, or we go walk by one other time, my wife and Conley said that he was there attaching the claws to his hand and doing the prosthetics for the claws to make it look like it was actually coming out of his skin. And she's like, she's like, just that part, watching him do that was really kind of cool. Like, so he was sitting there at his booth, and instead of like going back behind a curtain, putting all the stuff on and coming out, he was sitting there. Basically, you could sit and watch him put all this stuff on. That was, he was really good. He looked really good.
Well, maybe he was the guy that was the Cylon because the guy who did the Cylon put the costume on right there on the floor.
It
So
could have
yeah,
been.
it took like 30 minutes to get him into that suit.
I believe it. I believe
Yeah,
you.
it was the cos. I've always been a big fan of cosplay, especially. Um, well, we're just talking about people who kind of do this professionally, but I really like when just the fans, put a lot of hard work and effort into these things. It may not be perfect, but I love it anyway because you can see the passion that goes behind it.
Yeah.
So I've always been a big fan of that, and there was tons of that there.
Yeah,
I
there
feel
was.
because it's a smaller, it's smaller than like Planet Comic Con here in KC. It feels a little bit more accessible,
Mm-hmm.
and you can feel the passion of the fans. It's not as commercial. It's everything is just right there in your face. Even the
Yeah.
wrestlers.
Yeah.
So it was just really cool for that. So if you've never gone to a comic book convention, you're wondering which one should I go to. I'd say go to O Comic Con. You'll have a better experience. You'll get a better idea of how it feels, to be amongst all this. It almost felt like behind the scenes, because you're just that much in it.
Yeah.
It's just wandering around a vendor hall and stuff like that. You really got to know the people and everybody there. When was like, I love your cosplay. You mind if I take a picture? They were all very cool. They would get into character and pose and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It was just fun with those people, with the people that did that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really well done. I definitely recommend it as well. Um, if you haven't been, you should go at least once. Even if you're not a fan of comic books, even if you're just a this or that type fan, not as broad ranging, you should still go and go check that stuff out. It's if you like going to street fair type stuff where people are selling stuff that they've made or artwork that they've done. A comic book convention that's part of the comic book convention, and that's a really cool part, and that was part of the reason why I thought it was great that my wife came with me. She's not a big comic book fan. She doesn't. We don't watch a ton of movies. She doesn't. She doesn't follow that stuff as much as I do. But she loves art, and there was a couple times where we stopped, and she just like, I like that. That was really cool. And it might be a character that she knew. It might be a character that she didn't. But she's like, just that artwork. That's really cool. And that's what you can get out of some of these conventions. So
Yeah, and there was tons of stuff there that I didn't know what they were.
right.
There was a bunch of girls wearing wedding dresses. So I just asked somebody, it's like, okay, what's this from? And then he's like, well, if they have pink hair, it's from this and this and this. And if they have blue hair, it's from this, this, and this. Like, holy cow, I had no idea.
Right.
It was really cool that way. And that's what I liked about the people that go to these cons is you could just strike up a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
And, if you have a dumb question like I usually did, like, what's that from? Kind of a thing. There was always somebody there that'd be like, okay, this is what it is, and all this other stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And that was the other thing. I asked my wife afterwards. I asked her, what she thought of it, and the one thing that my wife took out of it was that not as many people were socially awkward as she thought in this industry. You know,
Yeah.
there's still the people there that, you know, you just look at and you go, yeah, you really can't carry on a conversation. Like you're really in your own little world there, and that's okay. But she said that she was really impressed with not just the people in the con, but also the people that run podcasts and the other, you know, the cosplayers and the whether they were professional or whether they're just walking around. She's like, she was surprised by the number of people that were just openly extroverted. Like, just they'll, if you ask them a question and talk to them, they can carry on a conversation with you. And for people who aren't involved in this industry and don't do a bunch of stuff with comic books and don't go to a lot of conventions, I know that's one of their fears, because it was one of my wife's fears. She's like, I don't want to go and like try to talk to these people who all they want to do is sit behind a table and not talk to people. No, it's not everybody's like that, and that there's a good majority of people in this group that are more than welcoming to sit there and strike up a conversation about whatever it is you want to talk about. It doesn't even have to be the stuff they're selling.
Exactly.
So.
There were still those people there, you know.
Oh yeah.
There was a couple times I walked through a veil of BO odor.
Yeah.
But that's just going to happen. You're in tight quarters.
Yeah.
So, it's not pleasant, but it's there. There are the socially awkward, like you said, but I was actually surprised when your wife walked in and she was wearing a Marvel T-shirt, and it was just cool to that she got to experience and had a good time. I'm glad she really enjoyed it.
Yeah, she had a good time. I don't know that I'll ever get her back to another convention. Maybe once the kids maybe once both kids are older and more outgoing and wanting to do this stuff, maybe she'll end up coming a little bit more. But she had a good time, so I got to give her that. And we're already in talks of possibly going, at least me and Reese, and maybe even Pearson, going to Kansas City Comic-Con in November. So.
Well, yeah, we should do that together. If you go, I'll go with you.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, definitely. The big takeaway I got from all the pictures and everything we took.
Mm-hmm.
I hate having my picture taken, FYI. We took a picture where it's everybody from the podcast arcade. You can tell me out of everybody because I look like I'm like 4 feet closer to the camera than everybody else.
Well, that was just because you were on the end too. Like we had this thing like curved, and I think even because it was your wife that was taking the picture, and even where she was standing, I think she was closer to you than she was the other corner. Like she wasn't even like centered in it. But it's still, the picture came out really good, and I like the fact that Eddie put the one up there where you're giving somebody the bunny ears. I can't remember who.
I gave Anthony the bunny ears.
Anthony, that's right. I couldn't remember who you were standing next to. Yeah, it was Anthony.
Yeah, because I kind of, you can hardly see him because I'm in the way, but that's all right.
But yeah, it was a good time. Recommend it for everybody. And that is what we're going to call a show for tonight. Any last thoughts you want to throw out there about Comic-Con?
It's just a shame it's 3 hours away, really, but it was worth the drive. Next year, I'm going to go again next year, and I'm going to drive up on Thursday night and help set up and things like that to get to know people that set up a booth before all the craziness starts.
Yeah. That is definitely cool. So there you go, everybody. That's what we got for tonight. Be sure to check out the blog at geekvice.blogspot.com. You can follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/geekvice, and of course, uh, subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's how you'll know these videos go live. If you like watching the video side of it, easiest way to get to the YouTube channel is tiny.cc/geekvice. There will also be a new episode of Geekvice Gaming going up on Thursday. Um, we're continuing the Starbound games. We're going to do a few more episodes of that, and then I might be jumping back into Assassin's Creed. I don't know. We'll see.
That's crazy talk.
Yeah, you can follow us on Twitter, though. You can follow that man over there at Kip Killigan. You can follow me at Geekvice. And as always, you can email us at geekvice@gmail.com. We welcome all emails about anything you want to email us about. Thanks, everyone, for listening to our ramblings, and we will see you next week.
Later.
This podcast is part of the Podcast Arcade Network.
Done. Done.